Shalom, brothers and sisters. It's the Hebrew Life again. I'm Beis Jerusalem, and I'm back with another lesson. We're going to call this one, Can I Pray Over Pork? Yes, you heard it right. That old lie that you hear at the dinner table. Just pray over, baby. It'll be all right. I'm here to prove today that pork is unlawful, is not to be eaten, is not to be touched by Hebrew, and that the Most High hates pork, and that it's an unclean thing. I'm going to also dive into the lie that the Christian churches use to say that pork is lawful to eat, which is in, what is it in? I have it wrote down right here. Acts 10. Yes, we're going to dive deep into Acts 10 and Simon's or Peter's vision that he had when it comes to the unclean foods that he's seen, because this is going to be one of the main reasons why people find themselves outside the kingdom. People just don't want to put that pork down. They just don't want to put it down. You just got to have bacon on these sandwich. I remember I was an avid eater of bacon when I was in the flesh before the Hamashiach found me. I would put it on anything. You find yourself putting bacon on everything. Chicken, hamburgers, stuff that don't even, tacos, stuff that don't even have, it don't even have no business associating with. It don't have no business associating with anything on the Hebrews plate. But the Gentiles and the heathens love it dearly. If you turn on the Foods Network channel, any one of these cooking shows, they're constantly eating abominable foods. And today, we're going to prove that the top on the list, pork, is unlawful, and our brothers and sisters in the past would die before they let their lips touch pork. I'm going to prove that today. Can you pray over pork is the title of the video. Let's prove that first. Let's go to Psalms 109. Let's go to Psalms 109 because people, I heard this lie coming up a lot, that you could pray over pork. And I always found it funny. But then when I got the truth, I found it very funny because I was thinking, how could you pray over something that's abominable? How could you pray over something that the Most High said was unclean? So let's see what the Most High says about prayers. And then we're going to jump to this pork thing and why it's unclean and why it shouldn't be eaten and what the Most High thinks of it. And then when I'm done, it's up to you if you want to believe your preacher and your pastor or your own mind and why you continue to indulge in eating pork and several other abominable foods that the Most High said was unclean to us, meaning it will make us sick. And you find today that pork is probably one of the, I believe, in my opinion, is the number one cause of cancer. It's not cigarettes. It's not smoking, as the TVs will tell you. It's not the smoke coming out the factories in the air, polluting the air that's giving us cancer. It's pork. It's that unclean food, pork, shrimp, lobster, and crab. All these abominable foods that the world indulges in, that's making us sick in the last days. It's not the steroids and the GMOs. Cancer has been around, but they don't want to tell you that cancer causes pork. If you don't believe me, do your research. Type in Google, Smithfield, deli for cure. And in this article, they're going to tell you that pork is the number one cause of many types of cancers within the body. And they did their research, and they found out that cured ham, mostly cured ham, is a very dangerous polluted meat, and we shouldn't be eating it. But they're going to continue to sell it because it's at high demand. It's at high demand. And the flesh is going to profit off the flesh, but the spirit shall not indulge in it. We should keep our eyes open on what we eat and what's in the ingredients of what we eat, because a lot of the ingredients today, they're trying to put pork in it to make it okay, to make it everywhere. But we must keep dodging this deadly ingredient that they put in foods. Psalms 109. And I'm going to start at verse 5. I'm going to start at verse 4. For my love, they are my adversaries, but I give myself unto prayer, and they have rewarded me evil for good and hatred for my love. Set thou a wicked man over him, and let saints stand at his right hand. And when he shall be judged, let him be condemned, and let his prayer become sin. As you see right here, King David said, let his prayer be sin. So everything people pray for in their life is going to become a sin, because you can't pray over something that's a sin. You can't pray over something that's an abomination. You're praying to Satan at that moment. Let's go to Leviticus 11:11. Because in a vision of Paul, it says everything should be took. It says, I forgot what verse it is. It says every animal is clean, and let none be refused unless it's for Thanksgiving. I'm gonna pull that verse up later, but I gotta jump forward, because I'm gonna kill that. Every animal is clean. Yeah, true enough, every animal is good unto the Most High. He made every animal for a job. Every animal has a job. He didn't make an animal to say, hey, I hate this animal and it's no use to me. Otherwise, he wouldn't made it. The pig is not a bad animal, but it's not to be eaten. It's basically a garbage disposal. Shrimp, crab, like all these things are bottom feeders. Catfish, these things eat what's on the bottom of the ocean or the river. And they're not to be eaten. They're like vultures. You like chicken, right? Right, but you wouldn't eat a vulture. No, you wouldn't, because a vulture is a scavenger. It eats whatever. It eats dead carcasses. Eats whatever it can get its beak on. And that's the same thing a pig is. It eats whatever it can get its snout on. It's a bottom feeder. It's not to be eaten by us. It can be eaten by animals and other nations if they want to eat it. But the Hebrew Israelites, we were not to eat this coming out of Egypt. It was an unclean meat. Let's go to Leviticus 11:11. What is meat is first talked about. And when Most High first gave us our laws concerning this. I'm going to start at the top of verse 11, so you could get an understanding on what the Most High was saying. And the Elohim spake unto Moshe and Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Okay, now let's continue to read, because when you come up on swine, you're going to realize swine is not to be eaten. The Most High is telling you, these are the beasts you may eat, and these are the beasts you may not eat. And there's no such thing, this is an old Bible and that's a new Bible. This is all one book. This is all one book. So there's no such thing, this is old laws. The Most High say change not, and Yeshua say he came not to destroy, but to fulfill. So these lies, these Christian lies, that's the pastor has been telling for years, because he's sweating up there, sweating pork juice out, and he don't want to quit eating. And he's lying, and he don't want to keep eating the pork and lying up there at the podium, just so we could keep his church attendance up with his members. It's coming to an end. Let's read about the swine. Let's read about the swine. Okay, he said, whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven footed, and cheweth the cud, among the beasts shall you eat. Okay, so let's get to so it's a few animals on here. You got the hare. People eat rabbits. You got the coney. People eat raccoons and different forms of it. Camels. But it was about that. We're talking about the pork. Right here. It says, because it cheweth the cud, but not divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. The coney, the hare, and the swine, though he divideth the hoof, and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you. Right there, the Most High told you in Leviticus 11 that the swine is unclean to you. So there should be no debate on should you be eating swine or not. Let's go to Isaiah 65, because the Most High talked about the swine again. And then I'm going to jump into Acts in his vision that Peter had. Let's go to Isaiah. Excuse me for ranting, people. But let's go to Isaiah, because I get real hot about this subject, because I have people who's close to me who I've tried dearly to get away from pork, and they refuse to let it go. I got family and friends who refuse to put the pork down. We go out and they order, and they know they're wrong for ordering, and we just was talking about how nasty the pig is. But when the time comes and the waiter asks them, do they want bacon on that, they say yeah. And I'm just fed up with it, because you're choosing death. You're choosing the temptation of flesh. I used to love pork just like any other person. But when the Most High came in my life, I decided to let that go. I decided it wasn't worth me disrespecting the Most High. If he said it's unclean to me, it's going to benefit me down the road. Now you're coming to find out everybody is getting sick these days because they're eating unclean meat. Isaiah 65:4. I'm going to start at verse 3. A people. No, I'm going to start at verse 2. I'm going to start at verse 2. Listen up. Listen up, Hebrews. I have spread it out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh in a way which is not good, after their own thoughts. A people that provoke me to anger continually to my face, that sanctifieth in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things is in their vessels. I'm going to read that again at verse 4. Which remain among the grave and lodged in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and abominable things in their vessels. Which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. These are a smoke in my nose and a fire that burneth all the day. This is what these people in these Christian churches say. I am holier than thou. I can eat pork and I don't have to follow laws. I can eat pork. That law is done away with. This is what you hear in these Christian churches. That law is done away with. When Yeshua HaMashiach said, I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. It's crazy. It's crazy. So let's go, before we jump into second answer, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians. And then in the second video, I'm going to blow this pork thing, this a lot of people use in church, out the water. Because we don't have enough time to kill this whole conversation on pork. Let's go to 1 Corinthians first to kick this off about Acts and this vision that Peter had. The main lie that people use in churches today on why they use pork. And some people know the vision isn't what they say it is, but they're going to use this to eat pork. Now let's find out if Paul, whose letters it was, because they use Paul's letters to lie. So let's see what Paul says about himself, and does he believe in Yeshua the HaMashiach or not. First Corinthians, first chapter, verse 11. I'm going to start at verse 12. Now this I say, that everyone of you saith, I am Paul. I of Apollos. I of Cephas, and I of Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? I thank God that I baptized none of you, but Crispus and Gaius, lest any should say that I had baptized in my own name. Excuse me. Let me get to verse 11. It says, for it have been declared unto me, my brethren, by which are of the house of Cleo,